Trauma and moving past it. Trauma can affect your life in so many ways, especially childhood trauma. Trauma usually impacts children through physical, emotional, cognitive, and social well being. Some physical effects are disruptions in the stress response system and changes in the brain structure and function. Some emotional effects are anxiety, depression, and PTSD, difficulty regulating emotions, and problems with trust and attachment. Cognitive and social effects can be learning difficulties, social withdrawal, nightmares, increased risk of mental health problems, substance abuse, relationship issues, and aggressive behavior. Trauma can be really hard for a child to get help for because it can physically alter the brain, creating a heightened stress response and impairing memory and emotional regulation. To get help, it requires confronting painful memories, processing difficult emotions, and reestablishing a sense of safety and trust. A lot of these problems can block you from doing this. Also, it is really hard for a child to know where to go for help and how to put in the effort needed to make progress. I have gone through a lot of these problems due to my own past trauma, and I'm going to give some insight into how this has affected my life and how I've been able to move forward. My biological mother, Tina, is not the best parent. She was abusive both physically and mentally. She did the opposite of showing me a path into life. And my dad was almost always at work, so I was stuck alone with her a lot of the time. So I have experience with how bad parenting can be harmful firsthand. I was forced to mature at a really young age due to this situation. My parents got a divorce when I was in sixth grade. My brothers and I moved in with my aunt in Windsor, Colorado, and my dad joined us shortly after. Moving from Aurora to Windsor was a massive change for me. When I moved to Windsor, I had little to no contact with Tina, but after just a few months, I started to see how the trauma in my life still affected me. I didn't know how to or have any way to deal with the trauma effectively. Some effects of the trauma on me were building real connections with my friendships. I had really bad trust issues, as well as having a hard time forming meaningful responses in the conversations I had. I also didn't know how to deal with my emotions effectively. Every emotion I had came out as anger or as nothing. I also had a hard time thinking before I acted. I was very impulsive. At school, a girl kept coming up to me. She was popular and funny, a very likable person. We started hanging out a lot, and as our friendship grew, she introduced me to her friend groups, which then led to me becoming kind of popular myself. As I started to try to build deeper relationships with these friends, I realized the connection problem and how it was affecting me. When hanging out with friends, I started to see myself as the odd man out. I had no contributions toward the conversations we had. I was the kid who would walk in the road alone while everyone else was on the sidewalk. Some of my friends would smoke marijuana. One night, I was riding my longboard and ended up close to one of my friend's houses. So I texted him asking if he wanted to hang out. Turns out a couple of other friends were at his house, so he told me to pull up. I show up at his house, and all my friends were sitting outside on a bench. I walk up to them, and after a little bit, one of them pulls out a joint. We end up smoking it. Instantly, I fell in love with it. I was able to act as what I thought was normal. I was outgoing and confident. I could figure out thoughtful things to say. It felt like a big weight was lifted off of my shoulders. I started using marijuana and alcohol socially to build connections with people. The kid whose house I was at always had some form of marijuana, whether it was a vape pen, a joint, or bud with a pipe. I started hanging out with this kid all the time, smoking all the time, and just making really dumb decisions. Over time, my addiction grew. I found myself smoking at school, smoking at home by myself, as soon as I woke up, and right before I went to bed. One night, a couple of friends and I got really intoxicated and made a decision that changed my life. We broke into and attempted to rob a smoke shop. We were caught and brought into the police station where we were questioned. I stayed silent while unknowingly all the blame was placed on me. A couple of months later, I had a court date and was placed on probation for 2 years. Throughout probation, I kept messing up. I was not involved in any of my treatment. I kept getting high and popping hot on UAs, and I kept hanging out with people I wasn't supposed to. About 6 months into my probation, I got really intoxicated and ended up getting arrested. I was brought into a juvenile center where I spent 5 months detained, still going to court, and then a year committed. I was at the center from April 28th, 2024 to September 4th, 2025. Throughout this time, I became really involved in my treatment. I never got any write ups. I communicated throughout my therapy and worked through group therapy. I also did a lot of individual work on my own. Also, my communication skills grew tremendously due to just being around a lot of different people. I was able to make the best out of this situation and get the help that I needed. I am continuing to work to better myself, and now I am in a way better condition as a person. I have started college. I have all A's as of right now. My social and emotional regulation skills improved greatly. There has been a significant increase in my own self worth. I have been sober for a little over 500 days, and I am overall a happier person. Getting this help has been very beneficial for me. But I want to preach to people that they should try to get help before it reaches this point. I believe that dealing with problems in life can be very beneficial, and it is really important in making a better life.